You can greatly improve your voice recordings using Adobe Audition. When done right, your recordings will sound better than ever before. The process is simple and essential for all types of voiceover work. This includes audiobook narration, professional voiceovers, content creation, podcasts, or any other kind of voiceover you can imagine. In this video, I will guide you through each step with clear instructions and detailed settings. By the end, you'll have high-quality audio with no difficulty following along. If you'd like a PDF with all the steps and screenshots, you can have it sent to your email. Just click the link in the description, enter your email, and I'll send it right over. Now, let's dive into the process of improving the sound. But first, let me show you a demo of how much better it will sound. I will play the original and processed sound alternatively, and you will hear the difference.
About noon the next day, the boys arrived at the dead tree. They had come for their tools. Tom was impatient to go to the haunted house. Huck was measurably so, but suddenly said, "Looky here, Tom. Do you know what day it is?" Tom mentally ran over the days of the week, and then quickly lifted his eyes with a startled look in them. "My, I never once thought of it, Huck." "Well, I didn't neither, but all at once it popped on to me that it was Friday. Blame it, a body can't be too careful, Huck. We might have gotten to an awful scrape tackling such a thing on a Friday. Might. Better say we would. There's some lucky days maybe, but Friday ain't one of 'em. Any fool knows that. I don't reckon you was the first that found it out, Huck." "Well, I never said I was, did I? And Friday ain't all neither. I had a rotten bad dream last night. Dreamt about rats." "No. Sure sign of trouble. Did they fight?" "No." "Well, that's good, Huck. When they don't fight, it's a sign that there's..."
You just heard the improved sound. The improvement I demonstrated was just a general enhancement, but by following the steps in this video, you'll be able to achieve the same results. I've also created presets that can upgrade your voice with just one click. Some presets make your voice clear and crisp, while others add richness and depth. If you'd like to try these presets, you can find them on my Patreon page. Installing the presets is simple, and there's a link with instructions in the description. You can even get a free demo to hear how your voice will sound using these presets. Just send your audio file to the email address provided in the description. These presets are my pre-built solutions to help you achieve better sound quality instantly. Now, let's learn how to process your recordings for dramatic improvement in Adobe Audition. The key to great audio lies in these 4 effects. However, they must be applied in the correct order and with the right settings. Otherwise, the audio could end up sounding worse instead of better. For beginners, I would suggest to follow this order. It will make the processing easy, and you can use the configurations I will show. The alternative to this process requires a better understanding of the audio editing techniques. The recording you see on the screen is a raw recording. Raw recording means it has not been processed yet. The first step of the processing will be normalize. I will normalize it from the Favorites menu. Favorites are actually shortcuts to some audio editing effects on Adobe Audition. I will normalize it to -3 dB, and Favorites has a menu for it. Normalize is a kind of volume control effect. You can set the peak value or the loudest point of the audio using normalize. If I normalize it to -3 dB, the peak will be -3 dB, and other parts of the audio will be adjusted accordingly. You can see the audio level in the waveform. The current peak is around -12 dB. After normalize to -3 dB, the waveform will reach -3 dB. For this recording, the height of the waveform will increase after normalize. I will click on normalize to -3 dB. You can see the peak is now touching -3 dB, and the other parts of the waveform have also increased in height. Normalize does not mean the waveform will always increase in height. It depends on the peak level before normalize, and what value you are using to normalize. I will skip the details mechanism of normalize, but keep in mind that normalize to -3 dB is necessary for my next steps. If you normalize to -3 dB as the first step, you can follow the same configurations I will use next. The next step will be noise reduction. However, you should set your expectations right around noise reduction. Noise reduction can significantly degrade the audio quality if not done correctly. Also, it is not possible to remove every type of noise from the audio. You cannot reduce that significantly if you have irregular background noise like dog barking or traffic noise. If you are looking for professional-grade audio, you must have to record without any irregular background noise. There is no exception of that. However, besides irregular background noise, there is another type of noise called white noise or hissing noise. If the hissing noise is too loud, it will again affect the audio quality. Your recording should have as little hissing noise as possible. You have to set your environment right to capture as little hissing noise as possible. Still, some white noise or hissing noise will be present in the recording. You have to reduce that noise to an acceptable level using noise reduction. Adobe Audition has a bunch of noise reduction effects. We will use the denoise. Denoise is easy to use and serves the purpose well for reducing hissing noise. You have to configure the amount of noise you want to reduce. The higher you set the amount, the more noise will be reduced. However, high reduction in noise will result in poor quality audio. I suggest setting the amount below 40%. On average, recording a value of around 30 to 40% will do a satisfactory job. There is also another configuration for processing focus. If you know which frequency area is causing the noise, you can set the focus on that frequency area. I am using the first option, the flat line, meaning the denoise will be active on the whole frequency area. I will keep it in that way. I will apply this setting for denoise. After denoise, I will use an EQ effect. EQ is the process of manipulating volumes by frequency. That means you can increase the volume of some frequencies and decrease the volume of other frequencies. EQ is a very vast topic, and I will use a simple EQ for this improvement. I will use a high-pass filter. High-pass filter means I will be lowering volume of lower frequencies and let pass the higher frequencies as it is. That sounds too technical, but let me show you what I mean. There are different types of EQ effects available in Adobe Audition, and I will use parametric equalizer. Parametric equalizer is flexible enough to manipulate any frequency. Though we are using a very basic EQ, knowing to use the parametric equalizer will help you in moving forward. You see my last used curve here, and I will get back to the default settings. You will understand what changes I am making for a high-pass filter. You can see a flat blue line with some numbers or letters on it. These numbers or letters are called bands. Each band controls a certain frequency. You can see each band is associated with a frequency here. You can change which band to represent which frequency. There are advanced controls, and we will only see a basic EQ. For the basic EQ, I will use a high-pass filter. You can see a band named HP here which is currently inactive. I will click on it and the high-pass filter will become active. You can notice the curve is cutting some lower frequencies in this region. The place where this cut will happen is set by frequency. Currently it is 40 Hz. For voice recording the frequency can be 70 or 80 Hz. If you know about fundamental frequency of human voice, then you will understand the reason. Fundamental frequency means the lowest frequency generated by our voice. Generally, humans do not generate frequencies below 80 Hz. If your audio has some energy below 80 Hz, then it is most likely some kind of noise. If you use a high-pass filter around 70 or 80 Hz, those types of noise will be reduced. I will adjust the frequency for high-pass filter. There are many advanced use of EQ, like making a voice clear or crisp or rich. But those are a bit advanced topic and I will discuss that in a later video. For this beginner-friendly tutorial, I will suggest you to use a high-pass filter like this. Adobe Audition is a top-notch audio editing software, and you should be able to use it fully. If you are looking for a detailed course on Adobe Audition, I will put a link in the description. My EQ curve is now set and I will apply this. If I recap the order of the effects so far, it is normalize, denoise and then parametric equalizer. The order of the effects I am using in this video is a beginner-friendly sequence. If you use this sequence, you are most likely to get an improved audio. The next effect I will add is a compressor effect. There are several ways to add a compressor effect to the audio. For example, you can see several compressor effects like single-band compressor, multi-band compressor, tube-modeled compressor, etc. However, I will use the dynamics to add a compressor effect. I am using dynamics as it is simple to configure. You can see three things in the dynamics: auto gate, compressor, and expander. We will only use the compressor here. You may ask why we have to use the compressor. Well, a compressor reduces the dynamic range of audio. In simple terms, a compressor lowers the volume gap between louder and softer talk. That improves the overall listening experience. Because you will hear every part of the audio comfortably after applying a compressor. However, too much compression will make the audio sound unnatural. It is about finding a balance that works for your recording. If your goal is to be in a professional voiceover or want pro-quality audio, the compressor and EQ will help you a lot. But the compressor and EQ are a bit complex concepts, and you will have to put some effort into learning them. For this tutorial, I will use a preset as a starting point. I will use soft compression. I will not use the soft compression as it is, and will modify some of the configurations. Please note that after selecting soft compression, the auto gate and expander are not selected, only the compressor is selected. It is important that the compressor is only checked. I will configure the threshold and ratio and keep the other value as it is. For a typical recording, the threshold around -15 to -18 works okay. If the audio level crosses the threshold, the compressor will be active. I have set it to -15.4 dB. If the audio crosses -15.4 dB, the compressor will start compressing the audio. The lower threshold you set, the longer the compressor will be active on the audio. How much compression it will do depends on the ratio. Usually, a ratio between 2 to 4 works well for a voice recording. You may need to experiment with the ratio and threshold to find out the best compressor settings for your recording. Please note that I use such a setting because I normalized the audio to -3 dB at the start. If the peak level of the audio was different, these settings may not work. I will keep the other settings as it is and apply the compressor. The compressor is applied and the overall waveform looks more balanced than before. However, the compressor alters the peak level of the audio. After applying a compressor, you have to normalize the audio to get proper levels. I will normalize it to -3 dB. The audio is now fully processed and improved a lot. We can verify that by listening the improved sound. I will play and alternate between the original and improved sound.
About noon the next day, the boys arrived at the dead tree. They had come for their tools. Tom was impatient to go to the haunted house. Huck was measurably so, but suddenly said, "Looky here, Tom. Do you know what day it is?" Tom mentally ran over the days of the week, and then quickly lifted his eyes with a startled look in them. "My, I never once thought of it." "But Huck?" "Well, I didn't neither, but all at once it popped on to me that it was Friday. Blame it, a body can't be too careful, Huck. We might have gotten to an awful scrape tackling such a thing on a Friday. Might. Better say we would. There's some lucky days maybe, but Friday ain't one of 'em. Any fool knows that. I don't reckon you was the first that found it out, Huck." "Well, I never said I was, did I? And Friday ain't all neither. I had a rotten bad dream last night. Dreamt about rats." "No. Sure sign of trouble. Did they fight?" "No." "Well, that's good, Huck. When they don't fight, it's a sign that there's..."
This was the overall process to improve the audio quality as a beginner. If you haven't grabbed the PDF yet, I highly recommend to do so. You can follow the process from the PDF a couple of times, and your skill will become automatic. If you want professionally built presets in Adobe Audition, you can get it from my Patreon page. I will put the link in the description and in the pinned comment. A better deal would be to grab the Adobe Audition bundle. The bundle has the presets pack, an excellent Adobe Audition course, and also a custom EQ personalized to your voice. If you are looking for the best resources on Adobe Audition for professional quality work, the bundle would be a no-brainer. You will get all the necessary links in the description and my email address. If you want to know more about the bundle or presets, please email me.